to share with you a way of work I found. And at the beginning, I wasn't thinking it was something interesting to share, but last year when I was at McAdmins, on the way back to Philadelphia, friend in the car was, we were talking about documentation, and I showed them how I work, what I do with LaTeX in terms of IT documentation, and they told me maybe it was something interesting to share with the community. So here I am, trying to show you how I work and why I end up working like that. My name is Yoann Gini, and as you may hear, I'm French, so sorry for my accent. You may already see me on topics related to system and network administration, mainly focused on SMB information system and everything that can be related to it, like network architecture, system security, smart card, and things like that. I'm also software developer related to software developer for tools related to IT in somehow. So maybe you already use Hello IT or HireD Inspector or some other tools I've ever made. So that's kind of topic I can share with you. Regarding IT documentation with LaTeX, we will see why, at the beginning, we should document, how to do it, and what should be in your documentation. What is really useful to you and won't make you lose your time. So, first, about why we should document our work. Well, the first thing is you will forget. Whether you are, how good you are at your work, you will in the end forget what, why, and how you do things. So when 6 months from here you will have to come back to a setup you made, let's say if you are a consultant, you will have forget. Also, one day you will need help. And if you didn't document your work correctly, the one who will come to help you to do your job will have to discover, to reverse all your work to understand why it has been done like that. And maybe also one day you will be audited for your work. Someone will come and review and maybe check your work against PCI DSS compliance, something like that. So if you didn't do a proper documentation of your work at this time, you will have a lot of bad time. And in the end, maybe you will quit your job. So the time you quit your job, maybe you don't want your former employee to call you every day because you didn't document your work and they don't know how it works. So for all those reasons, you have to document your work and to do it properly. So for that, the question is, what is relevant for a documentation? What should I select or not select? The thing is, you want to work for future you. You want to save your time in the future. So this is the main tip. Document for someone with the same skill as you. Someone who knows the topic, but just had to know how you did it. So in one word, in one sentence, it's not about an how-to, but how you did. So when you think about the documentation, you are not teaching someone. You are just logging what you do. And as soon as you understand that, you are able to write the documentation in an efficient way. And at this time, I have 2 employees in my company. I've shared this process with them. And all of us are able to ship documentation for our customer as soon as we leave the office. So if we deploy something new on a new customer, we end up, and at the end of the day, when we leave, we are already ready to ship the documentation. Just because we have tried to work on process and how we prepare the work and how we did it on the field directly. So The question is what I should document. You should document what is specific to your installation. So for example, if we take Monkey setup is something very common. Almost all of us who already use it already know how to deploy it. But what is important to document is what is specific to your setup. What is your Monkey URL? How do you use catalog and manifest in your situation? Do you have pre-production scenario? Do you have rollback system? Do you have mirroring system? And if you have one, how does the mirroring is triggered? These are important things to document. How to set up is not something relevant for documentation in terms of internal IT documentation. Now, this is about content. But in your content, for example, you will have things like passwords. And this is the kind of thing you don't want to have in clear text mode on your hard drive. Or at least, I hope you don't want them on your hard drive in clear text mode. But let's say you don't want them. So, when I started to use LaTeX, I use it for two main reasons. One was, this is one of the tools available who allow me to split the content from the presentation. When I write in LaTeX, I specify what is the class of the element I'm writing. Is it a title? Is it a chapter title? Is it something that have to be in emphasis? Or is it a password or something? But how it looks in the end, I don't have to lose my time with it. This is the main problem with all with common writing application like Word or Pages. You lose your time with presentation who has to be managed at the same time of the content. So multiple tools with computers allow us to do this split. So for example, we have LaTeX, we also have DocBook, we have Markdown. So plenty of tools are here to do this. And I've picked LaTeX because it has functionalities that are interesting in terms of pre-processing. And this will become interesting when it will come the time to write password. So, since time is a bit limited, I will just show you a big demo on how I work. And I hope you will find some interesting things to grab from this. So, this is an empty document, text file, basically. And I will just start with a basic LaTeX content with something we declare the kind of the document, so it will be a report with some basic option, and then beginning and end of document, and in the middle, everything related to content. So if I ask my tool to generate a PDF from this, I get a simple PDF with my content inside. Now, let's go a bit deeper and try to add some basic title, author info, ask LaTeX to present the title, and also ask LaTeX to generate a table of content for me. Whoa. So, here it is. I created only 15 lines of LaTeX, and I already have 2 PDF pages, one with basic document info like document title, author, and the date of the last editing, and some basic contents. But as you might notice, we don't have any table of content for now. Even if we asked for it, LaTeX didn't generate it. For a specific reason, we don't have any content classified as chapter or section or things like that. So if I continue and replace my hello world with some valid content, let's say, with, for example, a chapter linked to the system architecture and with inside network info, virtualization farm, server available, and maybe another chapter about processes to create user, so related to, for example, to user management with icon creation, deactivation, or maybe how to deploy a system. So I have my basic structure here. So before I ever start, I use basic pattern in my document template to know what I will have to document. Maybe some things will have to be removed. Maybe I don't need Linux, but structure is already here and I just have to fill the blank. So now that my document is has more content, if I regenerate a new PDF, I still have my title info and things like that. And now I have my table of content automatically generated for me with page number inside, and it's an active PDF. So if you open it in Aperture, for example, if you open it in Preview, you will directly get an active PDF who can work as expected. And then we have our content. So for now, it's empty, and we will continue. We'll continue with some basic process info. And this is a thing, if you start to manage IT documentation correctly, especially as a consultant, maybe you can share some block of content between customers. So for example, system deployment might be the same from one customer to another. If you have standardized setup, maybe it will be the same. So here I have a full basic content with processes for icon creation and all my information here. The thing is, the default presentation for LaTeX is a bit ugly, like you can see. It works, but it's not really enjoyable to read. So one really valuable things about LaTeX is I can simply change a class of document here to change everything about presentation side, and I don't have to change the content. So, for example, on my text close to my LaTeX file, I have a specific demo class for LaTeX with everything inside related to my company setup. So every sub-package I use in LaTeX to customize the presentation and, for example, all standard intro page about what my company is, or logo and things like that. So I will simply use this class, and to use this class, I will just change the beginning of my documents. So at this time, it used the report class with a built-in class in LaTeX, and all function linked to this class, so title, author, and etc. And I will replace this by feature I have in my own demo class. So it's just almost the same, except that I have a specific fancy title page because I wanted to specify correctly the author name, the title of the documents, and name of customers. And this handled for me everything related to date management and things like that. I also add a custom intro will be always the same, and the day I change my intro for any reason, I just have to change my class, and all documents who already used it in the past are directly updated. I don't have to lose my time to go back on every single documentation I've made during the last year to change my introduction. It's something who is factorized. It's something who is outside the document because it's about presentation, it's not about content. And then I still ask for my table of content. Just by changing that, I get a whole new presentation system here with my first page designed as I want. For example, I want my company logo on the top right. I want specific fonts because we try to do things correctly. All info related to who writes this and when, or at least it's when the PDF has been generated. Info related to the company, and then my company intro with logo and things like that. So this thing, this whole page, is just one line in my real document, and it's factorized between all documents I will write. This is something with my class. And then I all the table of content here with customized style. So I wanted to use a specific color. So I have my company who was specific graphic policy, and I use it in my document. And my content is here, exact same content, but with different presentation policy. And this is not something I have to care as someone who writes the documentation. It is something handled by the person in charge of publication, let's say, the one who is in charge of how the company is looking. It's not something that has to be managed by the tech side. So here it is. Now I will try to continue to fill this document and try to keep using smart method to do it. For example, I will try to add content about my gateway. So I'm documenting my gateway here and try to be as much short as possible. Just say what is it doing. And for example, what I want is say, okay, my gateway is used for internet access, of course, and also is used for VPN access. It's a Cisco AZ box with this version, and it's located in this server closet, for example. So I have all info related to location and materials in one simple table. Then maybe all info related to network, so how I can reach it from the inside or the outside. Info related to the accounts, your admin identifiant and admin password. So for now it's in clear text mode, so maybe we will have to do something about this. What are the services provided? Firewall, NAT, VPN of one specific kind, and of course how the configuration is backed. So here it's manual backup, and we have to think about it each time we do a change. We can ask for a new PDF, and here it is. So it looks like that. And when you look at this, maybe you can say, well, this is something that can be abstracted. All network resources, let's say routers, switches, sandboxes, servers, etc., will have the same kind of pattern with system info, network info, accounts for management, services provided, and backup location. So this is something I can create as a template. So for example, I could simply create a snippet ready to be used. And when I deploy something on a customer location, instead of using TextEdit to remember input value, so what is the IP, what is the admin, account and password, etc., I can just simply record my snippets and fill the blank on the fly. For example, the tool I use, TextPad, have a specific function for that. I have all my snippets here related to standard server setup, how I use quotes, table, etc. Code listing, for example, was not something standard in this setup, so I can use my LaTeX editor to help me on this. all pattern I use all the time. I use it as a snippet, and now the tool don't just help me to document, it's also help me to don't forget to document things. Maybe this can recall you things like ETL framework and software like I do IT, a German software, with helping you to document your things, but based on the database. And the main issue with database is it's something formal. Here, the snippet is always the same, but you have the opportunity to change it easily. So for example, for my access switch, I don't want to add one entry per single access switch I have in my company. So I can simply document the thing and do some slight change, like maybe the location won't be the system info, but in the network info. And in network info, instead of having a usage for the IP address, I just replace it with location and say, okay, I have 3 access switches, and here are all the specific info about them, and everything else is standard. So the day I have to add a new access switches on my network, I just have to add one line in this table, and everything is documented. And maybe I could add another subsection here about how to set up, how to do my initial setup for this access switch. Maybe I could just save a template for the config and use it. So I just have to document it here. And all dozens of access switch I have are just documented in one block of my documentation. So LaTeX and good LaTeX editor would help you to standardize your documentation, but still allow you for divergence, because when we are on the field trying to set up things for real, we don't want to lose time with tools who aren't really too strict. Now, as I continue to deploy my setup, I fill all the info. And here it is. We have my whole documentation here with only 600 lines, and wound up in 16 page in PDF. So it's really simple to create a full and usable documentation, okay to be read by someone maybe on an auditing team or something like that, and still don't lose your time with it. And when you have good editing tools, you may have some accessory view like this one, who can help you to jump directly on the section you want. And even more, this tool have some specific feature like specific commands like to do, so I can use it as a small task manager and say, okay, this is the beginning of the documentation. Let's say I send one of my employee on a customer with specific tasks to do, and I want him to do it on a specific way. So I pre-fill the documentation with all information linked to network, user, password, and etc. And add some comments in the documentation to say, okay, you have to do this, 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 and this, and in the end, just remember to grab this info from the tool you are using and document it just right here. It will help me to maintain the documentation correctly. And this come to be really handful when you have something like Apple ID. When you manage an MDM, for example, with DEP and VPP account and everything, you have basic info linked to the MDM by itself, but you also have a specific Apple ID that must be never lost. So using a good snippet on this will help, because well, everything is already ready, and I know I have to record the email address, the password, first name, especially the birth date used to create a fake account, so because most of the time it's service account, so fake, so birth date hasn't any value. But when in the future you will want to connect on the DEP account, on the DEP portal, you will need a two-factor authentication. So if you already have documented this at the beginning, when you set up the account, say, okay, it has been recorded it has been linked to this phone number, it will be way more simple to work in the future. Also, document all security questions, record every info you set when you create the account. So in the future, you will be way more efficient when you will have to use it again. Okay. So here it is, my Apple ID info, all here. And now come the question about security. Everything here is clear text. So if you host it on a Dropbox, for example, or anything else, you may want to encrypt sensitive information. And also publishing a documentation like that may be useful sometimes. So for example, you have another service provider who is coming to configure some things, and you want to inform it about how the system is working, but you don't want to give them all the password. So this is why, and this is a specific case where I've selected LaTeX over all other solutions. LaTeX allows me to create custom features, custom function for the language. Like here, it's import password. It's something I've created for this class. This is provided by my class. It's not something built in the language. We reference a password by a specific name here. So deployment without server default admin password, for example. And in my case, I've added a specific command linked to where are those passwords stored. So, for example, here I have a variable which is called source volume for password. And the main idea is I use disk image, so maybe encrypted disk image, to store the password and extract them from the documentation. So, for example, here I have my disk image will require a password. So, for example, this password could be recorded in 1Password or any password manager you have, so you can share it between all members, allow it to work for your specific customers. And in this volume, I have all passwords recorded in a TXT file with LaTeX syntax inside. So, for example, this syntax comes from LaTeX and allow me to present any kind of character inside, even the one was supposed to be LaTeX command. So I won't have to escape the backslash, for example, if my password already has a backslash. And now my volume is mounted. I can ask LaTeX to build the document. And if you look here, the only thing was changed is the way the passwords are presented. It's like mono font or something like that, just because I want the password to be shown in a specific way. So password is imported because my volume is mounted. And the thing I wanted was a way to simply switch from a documentation with or without password. And this custom method allows me to do this with disk image. So here I eject the disk image and I generate again my password. And now, since the target document, the target file to import isn't available anymore, when the PDF will be generated, the system just automatically replaces the password that should be here with a redacted block. So everyone who reads this simplest version have all info needed except the password and see where the password is missing. So it's something really easy to use, and you can create easily two versions of the same documentation, one confidential and one less confidential. And again, regarding document confidentiality, for my company, I use the traffic light protocol. It's something really simple who allow you to manage authorization of sharing documents by simple colors. And I've built in this in my LaTeX classes here. So I simply say, okay, this documentation is on the amber level, for example, and type my document again, and it automatically adds the color at the bottom of the documentation and the scope allowed at the top. So just simply by changing the color in the documentation class option, I automatically fill all the information needed on my documentation. So this helps a lot to have standardized and proper documentation. Now, the main idea to catch from this demo is simply to use as much as possible a command structure. If you do it, if you use a command structure within all your IT docs, you will in the end win time, because you will have you will have in the end an automatic behavior to fill it correctly and use it as deployment guide and a deployment sticky note. Use snippet as much as you can, so you have standardized documentation, and when you move from one customer to another, it's easy for you to find the information directly because the structure is the same. Pre-fill as much as you can, so when you prepare for a deployment, you already know what you will deploy, so you already know what kind of info you will need. So for example, when I deploy something linked to MDM and VPP, I ask my customer to verify the DEP enrollment process before. So I use this template to say, okay, here is the PDF, just fill the blank. If you don't fill the blank, I don't come. And then when you do your end deployment, you can just use your document as a deployment guide and just have to fill the blank on the go. And this is the main idea. So that's all. I've left some time to you for a question if you want. This presentation is available on my GitHub account with all sample code related to LaTeX. So the demo class I've used here is available, so you can just grab it and change what you want inside to fit your graphic requirements and use it just the way you want. And on all social IT networks, my nickname is Yoann Gini, so if you have any questions, just feel free to ask them now or whenever you want.
So any questions? On that note,
I've seen there's a LaTeX plugin for Confluence. Is it any good? Is it usable?
I never tried it.
Okay.
What I do most of the time related to this setup is for customer I have with shared responsibility with IT team on site and me as a consultant, I generally deploy GitLab server. And with GitLab, I use the GitLab runner for continuous integration. And we all push on the same Git repo. And when the Git repo gets a commit, it automatically starts the runner, and the runner generates the two PDFs. So it's one solution to have a centralized documentation and still get the PDF in the end. And everyone looking to the last PDF version, looking at artifacts created by the ruler. This is the solution I use. Maybe Jira or some others could help also. I never give a try to them.
Anyone else?
Hi. Did you have any difficulties getting your colleagues to take this on with you, or was it pretty easy to convince them that, like they all have their approaches for documenting things, and once somebody falls in love with that approach, it might be hard to break that?
The thing is, I did not have any issue because I'm the company owner. So this wasn't really something to convince, but more to teach. And in the end, it wasn't that complicated because LaTeX hasn't a really complex syntax. As long as you recognize backslash as a command, it's not that complicated to use. So since I expect people who will add content in LaTeX to be IT people skilled in script and things like that, I expect them to be able to write in LaTeX, or at least to learn in a few periods, in a few amounts of time, the subset of LaTeX I use in the documentation. I don't allow them to use all features. Everything who is allowed in my LaTeX classes has been documented, and we are all using the same method for the same thing, so it's not that complicated for them to learn. Does that answer your question?
Anyone else? No? Cool. Well done.
Thanks.